This debate just came out days ago.
So that's kind of how you can prove using natural reason that a God exists. And Parker, I'm interested to hear what your refutation of that would be.
So I decided to leave a little cute comment. Let's see if Noah is going to
glorify God.
This is gonna be interesting.
We can conclude from natural reason that there's actually a necessity for the classical definition of God.
Getting straight to the point. Now he basically builds his claim on 4 core premises, which lead to 3 conclusions, he says.
The first premise is that all contingent things require an efficient cause. So a contingent thing is just something that does not have to exist. So for example, like this pen does not have to exist, but rather it only exists because someone made it. If nobody made this pen, it wouldn't exist, and therefore it doesn't have to exist. So all of these contingent things do not exist of themselves, but rather they exist because something caused it to exist. Apples don't exist, or apples don't have to exist, they only exist because a tree made them. Computers do not have to exist, they only exist because a company manufactured it. And all of these contingent things require an efficient cause that gives them existence.
So he said the most obvious shit about contingent things.
Approved!
However, he is stating it in a misleadingly shallow way. Because for a thing to exist, there has to be various causes. And the more you think about it, the more the number of causes stretches to a bazillion causes. Hey, for those logic experts out there, every time I said the word cause in the video, I was actually referring to any type of condition that is relevant to the occurrence of an effect or an event or whatever. But I said the word cause multiple times while meaning this. This thing is the most I can do to fix it, I guess. Because I don't want to redo the audio. Let's say a chef cooked a pizza. Stating it as Noah and normal people do, we say that the cause of the pizza is the chef. And that's it. I think you know where this is going. So as the causes of the pizza, we have the chef, the owner of the restaurant, the person who sold the ingredients, the chef's parents, the earth temperature, ancient humans discovering cheese, the formation of the solar system, and another bazillion thing. By the way, when I say a bazillion thing, I use the word bazillion because it is not actually a real number. I use it to signify a massive unquantifiable amount. This should make it clear. And a slight modification in any of these factors would alter the pizza, or more probably make it cease to exist. So each of these little dots is essential. And what if the pizza was cooked by 2 people? I mean, what about that? So yeah, framing it simply as something has to be caused by another is dumb. You'll understand why I made this remark later in the video. And his second premise is basically that something can't be its own cause.
Nothing can cause itself to exist. I think we can all kind of agree on that because causality implies something being prior to another. So for example, the pen can't cause itself to exist because before the pen existed, there was just no pen. So how could something that doesn't exist cause itself to exist? Doesn't really make any sense. And yeah, so that's premise 2. Most people are good on that one.
Approved!
The third premise, he talks about the causality chain, which represents this thing since each cause requires a cause.
Now, premise 4 is that a causal sequence cannot regress to infinity. So this is the last premise. Causal sequences, or these causal chains, cannot go back forever because if they did, then the sequence would never begin to exist in the first place. This is something that a lot of people are pretty good on because it's pretty obvious. There's 2 analogies that can kind of help you understand this a little better, though. The first analogy is this. Imagine if you have like a train pulling a bunch of boxcars, okay? And the train, it could never move in the first place if there wasn't an engine pulling the train in the first place, right? So in the same way, causal sequences can never begin unless there was something that causes it to begin, a first cause, if you will. The second analogy is pretty similar, but it uses a chandelier. If a chandelier is held up by a chain, right? If the chain just goes on forever to infinity and it never connects to a ceiling, then the chandelier would simply just fall to the ground and nothing would be holding it up, right? Because it doesn't connect to anything. It's not grounded in anything. However, if there is a ceiling, the chain will be grounded in something and be able to be held up above the ground. So in a similar way, causal sequences can never go back to infinity. They have to have a definitive beginning. So like the ceiling would be the definitive beginning, and then the causal chain would be the chain of the chandelier. So there's 3 conclusions that can come from this. The first conclusion is that since causal series cannot regress to infinity, there must be a first uncaused cause. So if every causal series requires a beginning, there must be a first cause that is at the beginning. And this first cause must be uncaused, because if it had a cause, then it would no longer be at the beginning of the chain. It would just be another chain within the chain.
So I don't know if an infinite causality chain could exist or not, but what I do know is that by bringing up this legendary engine of yours, you're assuming a possibility, which is a logical fallacy if you don't know. I mean, no one knows anything that is not contingent, except for some theoretical stuff. And maybe the universe too, referring to existence itself. So if we're being for real, you are a human being with limited understanding of the universe. You could not fathom the concept of infinity. You basically found a bug in the universe, let's say, due to your limited data. And you are presenting a concept that would be a solution for the bug. You literally came up with a fallacious solution named
the classical definition of God.
Because you don't have sufficient data to decide what this origin looks like whatsoever.
All perfection of being is found in its fullest sense in the first cause. This first cause must have unlimited knowledge, ultimate power, unlimited justice. And this being is the first cause of the universe. It's the beginning of the causal chain and has all perfection of knowledge, power, and justice. And that is what classical theism defines as God.
I'm not believing that. You are literally bringing up a concept that does not exist in our realm, claiming it is the origin of the causality chain. You are acting like a show audience spotting a plot hole trying to solve it. What you are presenting here is a subjective proposition, not an objective obligation. The fundamental ground of this argument is those four premises he just talked about. And by understanding what I said earlier, it is not simply that a thing is caused by another thing, that's it. That's surface level, as I've just said. And to prove
The classical definition of God.
you chose to pick the topic of causality, and this isn't in your favor at all. The kind of origin you presented for a causality chain does not fit the criteria of the requirements for creating a new thing, because we have never seen, no one's ever studied anything being created or caused by a single thing. There has to be many factors, many reasons, like many causes, various ones that are bazillion causes they would have to be present to create a thing. Go back to the second minute, the 20th second of the video if you feel like something seems wrong. Maybe you forgot. You don't say I planted the plant, so I'm the cause of the plant and I'm the only cause. Cause if you were in the void with no soil, no shit, no anything, like no atmosphere, no fucking planet, no nothing, just you yourself, you would not be able to plant the plant. If you plant a plant, you are not the only cause of the plant. The creator is not the only cause of the thing. Maybe there are multiple gods. I would not believe that. So here's a new bug to solve. Now, jokes aside, if you're an idiot, this will help you. For an effect to occur, there has to be circumstances, conditions, a whole environment. A single being can't become a creator. A creator alone can't come up with a new creation. A god would need a whole space and environment to operate alone, not even make a creation. Under logic, since Noah relied on logic for his claim, with no sufficient conditions, with no conditions at all, this origin would not be able to begin the causal chain. So let's make a false dilemma. Since Noah said the chain could not be infinite, so there has to be an origin, we find that an infinite chain, according to Noah, is flawed. I don't know myself if it's fallacious or not, but okay, let's say that. The origin itself cannot begin a chain at all. So this is a new, let's say, paradox. We are human beings. We are not ready for this yet. We are not ready for the cause of the universe, if there is even one.